The landscape that isn't there, I have been told the title is enigmatic. Basically, it's everywhere, right? There's the landscape that's there, and then the landscape that isn't there is everywhere else. But no, it's actually a little bit more abstract than that. So I'm going to read the title poem to give you an idea where we're going with that. The landscape that isn't there. Yeah, the living room would have been here. My brother pauses in the lighting department of the hardware store that stands where our mother's house was. The city goes on the same as always outside the store. Blocks of little houses, lawns, shrubbery, and this store full of rakes, hoses, clippers, doorknobs. We're not even in the living room of that bungalow, but above it in this second floor department, seeking light. We hover over her home, conscious of what was, just as we still navigate by what isn't there anymore. Turn left at the tree that shattered and fell during the ice storm 20 years ago. We look at bulbs, cords, and switches, what we seek for our houses, always half-turned, listening for a voice, a light step into the room of the living. So the first section of this book has quite a few poems that are on that theme of memory, the landscape that we live in, especially when you get to be my age. And there are several about my mother, including this one, My Mother's Birds. I snipped the tail feathers off my grandmother's canary. My mother's memory reaches across the century to the year of the Spanish flu, a small child sent away to a safer place. She finds the flower room, quilt blocks, sewing scissors too close to the cage, and tail feathers between the bars. That darn bird didn't sing until they grew back, and Grandma was mad at me the whole time. I remember other birds, ducks piled iridescent and smooth on our porch, cold and soft-necked, passive to pet. My mother plucked the feathers, snowstorms of down around her feet. She drew their guts into a pail, corrugated blue gizzards, purple livers, intestines like earthworms, her hand red to the elbow. We ate roast duck and spat buckshot onto our plates. And above her graveside, geese V toward the Chinook Arch. My brother says, honk if you like Rachel. And they do. They do. I should point out that's two different brothers in two poems. Like I actually am related to two guys who do that kind of stuff all the time. Also in the first part of this book, there are several poems about various members of my family, including this one. I think really all you need to know to get it is that Charlotte is my cousin, and the events of this poem happened in 1968. I talked to Charlotte about hitchhiking. 50 rides, she says. It took us 50 rides to get from Edmonton to Quebec and back. You could never do that now. That summer, the roads were lined with backpacking teenagers. We thought we were adult, but called ourselves girls, and took rides from people we called grown-ups. The traveling salesman hungry for talk, the soldier who took us from Winnipeg to Sudbury overnight, nurses, hippies, a guy from Chicago who needed a vocabulary lesson. I don't tell my mother to fuck off, even though I know she knows what it means, and you shouldn't call a black person that word. We ate Spam and peanut butter, balanced hamburgers with milkshakes. I came home broke and fat. Then we talk about the men who picked us up, bought a case of beer, and drove off the highway into the woods. We wouldn't get out of the truck, so they drove back to the road and dropped us by a rapeseed field. We could be in that field until fall, Charlotte said. They wouldn't know we'd been raped until we got reaped. We laughed until we gasped. Now we know we were lucky. Lucky as the Ethiopian orphan adopted by rock stars. not the one who starves to death on camera. And on the subject of highway poems, for your joy, here is The Turtle on the 401. And yeah, I know the title kind of gives it away. The Turtle on the 401. In the oh no second before impact, it looks as eager as the turtle can look, head stretched out, one front leg and one back leg raised. The shock travels from tire to floorboard to feet. The sound stays behind. It would be folly to stop, to start the chain reaction to hospitals, graveyards, prison. The metal river rushes and we rush too. So we don't stop for the turtle, and no one stopped for the fox at Brockville or the two small raccoons at Gananoque. We continue to Kingston to read Poetry in the Park among the arts and crafts booths next to the First Nations tent. In that tent, I visit the basket maker. Tell him we killed the turtle on the road. His face scrunches. We agree in silence. He takes an artifact from the display case, lets me hold a century-old basket. He says he can see I will be careful. The basket, like a turtle shell, curves around its crescent hollow. Its handle is unworn, its color uniform. It has never seen the sun. We ask ourselves about the maker, what use she meant for it, why she stored it away unused. Each hour, our poetry MC acknowledges the unceded territory on which we meet. Turtle Island occupied, paths at right angles. We didn't mean to do it, any more than we intended to murder the turtle. We were on our way to poetry. And in putting this book together and juxtaposing those two pieces for the first time, I realized that what I call lucky quite often consists of being white. And I would like to open this space for us all to just think for a minute about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And of course, one of the extreme pieces of luck that I've had in the last little while is that I had congestive heart failure 2 years ago. That wasn't the lucky part. The lucky part is that I'm here to tell you about it. Because in 250,000 years of human history, people have survived this only during the last couple of decades. Because every medical advance that was done to me was developed during my lifetime. Open heart surgery, the whole of it. So the middle section of this book deals with that experience, and most of the poems I wrote as I was going through it, I found that they were very useful to me as a way of coping with dying and then not dying. This first one is actually one that I wrote quite a bit before the events, but it's called Hood. The hood obscures his face. He stands with his back to me holding what looks like a hockey stick. He is always there, but never near. When he does turn, I know some part of me will welcome him. Proliferating cells will leap forward, or others thin and break. Perhaps even now, he watches the bullet fall off an assembly line, or counts the clicks as I book a seat on that doomed flight. He has smothered children in their snowbank tunnels, extinguished mothers on their beds of labor, escorted heroes of the revolution to the guillotine or gulag, blessed my parents with heart attacks. I listen to my steady thump, diet and exercise and take my meds. I am full of hope, but when he turns, I know it will be my heart that leaps. And in fact, it did. So, I was advised to listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, they say, but why should I when it's such a lousy conversationalist? All it says is thump, or sometimes thump, 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 thump. That's the flailing mitral valve I'm supposed to calm with subtraction. No coffee, alcohol, salt, smoking, no exertion, excitement, stress. Stay away from children, little bags of germs. No stores, concerts, theaters. But the heart has a little red mind of its own. Doesn't like loss. Whispers demands like a hostage taker ordering ransom in small, unmarked bills. It wants to watch the late night news or the zombie apocalypse with beer and salty popcorn. It wants to dance, but won't take me up 2 flights of stairs. It's tired of naps, Austin, and adagios, and pays no attention when I slap the counter and say, I am so fucking sick of this. I am so fucking sick. Then we get triage. It's not a line you want to be at the front of. Not like business class or a VIP pass. My cousin in California sniffs at your Canadian medical system when I mention a wait of months. Yes, I say, if the homeless guy keels over panhandling, I get in line behind him. And yet, I elbow past, staring at the ceiling from a gurney in a hospital corner. Electrodes glued to my chest say, she will pass. She must pass. So very shortly after that, I got a phone call moving my surgery up from next month to next Tuesday. Go to bed. Wait till we call you. So this is mark the date. I am dying, Egypt. Dying, Mark Anthony said that afternoon 3 years ago when we walked from the British Museum to the Globe and paused at St. Paul's for evensong on the walk back. Now, I am in Act 5. Week by week, I ebb. I can't walk across the park, can't walk a block, can't go outside. A flight of stairs looms unclimbable between me and bed. It is fast, but slower than I expected. My father and his father dropped at work. My mother and her mother announced, I don't feel very well. I think I'll just lie down, and never rose again. In any century but this, I would put my affairs in order, plan my funeral, summon family, give them the last bits of wisdom from my oxygen-starved brain. But now, I contemplate these miracles, how Beethoven arranged black dots on paper to make emotion, how that emotion reliably lowers my blood pressure. How Miss Jane Austen's heroines, Elizabeth, Emma, Eleanor, all surmount their problems of the heart. How soon masked men will set my breasts aside to break my sternum and touch my heart. They will cut it, sew it, after taking a deep breath in, like my mother when she cut into expensive taffeta to make a wedding dress. And of course, once that's done, you have to go through rehab. Yes, this is for you, Jean. Rehab. First, the doctor said, don't move. No, move even less. Then the nurse with the clipboard followed me around the indoor track saying, move faster. Now, Aquafit instructor, man bun with headband, shows how he can breakdance, kickbox, skip rope on dry land. He hits the deck, rebounds. In the water, we swivel, sluggish. It is 10 after. It is still 10 after. In his baggy shorts, the wedding tackle snakes and wallops. And it is quarter after. All of it ignored by those 4 ladies gently bobbing, deep in conversation, as if they were in a coffee shop with no table, no coffee, and no clothes. So what do you do when you're stuck at home and can't even leave the house for 4 months? You watch a heck of a lot of TV. So this is spoiler alert, a season of Netflix. The evil twin gets the girl. The good twin goes over to the dark side. Not the same set of twins. Not because of the girl. The hero is beheaded in the second last episode. Invading aliens are felled by microbes. The dinosaurs are eaten by bigger dinosaurs. The women drive their car off the edge of the Grand Canyon. That weird little boy is really her son. The evil old man is really his father. The girl he loves is really his sister. The girl is her daughter and her sister. Is that too complicated for you? She wasn't really dead, just drugged. She wakes up and it was all a dream. The people he had been protecting committed all those murders. Spoiler alert, they all die in the end. Spoiler alert, we all die in the end. But I'm not going to end on a downer. We've already heard from Sylvia Plath earlier this evening, and she was, of course, one of my idols when I was a teenager, too. Now, from my perspective, I look back on that young 30-year-old woman and say, don't do it, Sylvia, come on, you got 40 good years ahead of you. And I imagine having that conversation, walking in the woods with Sylvia Plath. She waits for me beside the dead tree. Our rubber soles slide on the pine needle path. She pauses at the 2 red columbines by the rumpled sheet of trilliums. This turbulence disturbs her, makes her forget the scar she just acquired. I say we are lucky to be scarred. We have survived. She listens for the bees, watches their unboxed bumble, pulls out her phone to snap the eager dabbler at the bug-lost spire. The air is thick with life, swarms of midges marauded by dragonflies, an oriole snatching both mid-air. We sit on sun-warmed rock. Sylvia, I say, smell the air, how fresh it is, how good. Thank you very much.